It is kind of easy to hate on Americans, particularly if you are from Europe. I mean, Americans are loud, they're obsessed with work, they don't have any healthcare, they have really crappy food, and the list goes on, and quite a lot of videos have been made on this topic. But the truth is that we live in the world that has been shaped by the USA. What USA has done is around us. Many people say that the US has no culture, but the whole world knows what Hollywood is. The whole world understands social media. The whole world watches movies, American movies, and the whole world kind of deals in the US dollar. So why is it that the US is at the top with all of these negative qualities that people keep bringing up? In this video, I want to talk about 5 qualities that I have observed in Americans that I feel are kind of unique, and maybe the whole world, particularly Europeans, can learn from them. Hi, my name is Manan. I am not from the US. I have not lived in the US, although I have visited US quite a few times. I have my family living in the US as well, quite a lot of my family, and I understand that this is a gross generalization, what I am saying. I mean, the US is quite big, it's full of many different cultures, there are so many different people, and it is probably not fair to say that all Americans are like that or all Europeans are like that. The same goes for Europe as well. So please take this as just my own observations and my own experiences that I will share in this video. So that aside, let's go on and look at the first uniquely American quality. Number 1, Americans are not afraid of criticism, whether that criticism comes from the inside or whether that criticism comes from the outside. They are somehow very secure in their identities, and it doesn't really trigger them when people from across the world keep criticizing them. I think what this means is that there is quite a lot of security that they have in their own identity, the American identity that they have. And the second thing that I feel is a much bigger factor is their focus on the freedom of expression. This kind of acts like a self-correcting mechanism in the US. I mean, the US has done pretty horrible things across the world. The US has done pretty horrible things even to Americans, but all of these things have been brought out to light by Americans themselves. This is a self-correcting mechanism that probably doesn't exist in such way in many other countries. Dissent is not tolerated. Freedom of ideas is not tolerated. I mean, at least that much. There is no 100% freedom in any other country anyway, but the closest I think that you can probably get to is the US. And this is why I believe that Americans are not really afraid of criticism. I mean, they make fun of themselves. People across the world make fun of them. And at least in my experience, whenever I have talked about it, I have not seen them get defensive or get triggered, which is quite common actually in many other places in the world. You're not really allowed to openly criticize the country or the people, no matter how valid your observations might be. Quality number 2, who you are is not as important as what you do. Now, this kind of relates to diversity, but diversity not in like a corporate sense that has been spreading throughout across the world right now, but no, like true diversity, like diversity of ideas, diversity of thought, diversity of opinions. It does not matter what my ancestry is. It does not matter what the color of my skin is. It does not matter whether I am the son of, I don't know, the prime minister or an official or the son of anybody ordinary. It doesn't matter whether I am an immigrant or I am a native citizen. What matters more is what I do. What do I put in? And I think that level of diversity and inclusion is probably nowhere else in the world, at least nowhere that I have seen. The US itself has its own terrible history with slavery and all these topics, but the thing is that they are the ones who brought it out into the light and they dealt with it. It's still a topic that is on the stage actually there, that is being talked about. And what that means, that things like these, when they're up there on the stage, this means that these things are being talked about. And in other parts of the world, in many times, these things are just swept under the rug. There is this facade where people think that, okay, everything is good, but under the rug, things are not as rosy as they seem. And I can say particularly about Europe as well. That set aside, I think the level of diversity and the level of inclusion, despite all of the problems that USA might have, is truly unique. And I think that is one big reason why they have succeeded so much in the world, because they have invited people from all over the world with different ideas, different skin colors, and made them feel involved and included and part of one big nation. Quality number 3, like, Americans are ready to talk, like, no matter where you are. It felt kind of strange to me when I first landed in the US that the passport inspector, with just looking at my passport, would actually comment on the color of my jacket. But that is what happens in the US. In the US, people can come up to you and talk to you and just comment on how you are, on whether are you okay or whether you feel welcome. And this is kind of strange coming from Europe, because this is not a very ordinary, normal quality to be able to talk to strangers. People are extremely afraid of that. I was very much afraid of that. I mean, the first few years that I moved abroad, I had literally no friends that I could call to and talk about these things. But then I actually had to cultivate the ability inside me to be able to talk to strangers, because I realized that I am living in a very introverted culture. And if I don't go out and actively start talking to people, I'm gonna die alone. The thing is that in the culture, in the US culture, this thing, when you are there as Americans, might be considered very normal, very ordinary, very, matter of fact, that you can just go talk to some other person or ask for help or give help. But it is actually not very common across the world. I mean, in some Eastern cultures, yes, of course, but particularly in Europe, not so much. And if you have that quality, then it is kind of like a little superpower that you have if you are able to do that, because it took me quite a long time, quite a lot of hard work to be actually able to do that here. Quality number 4, and that is taking risks. Now, American culture that I have seen, it's like prioritizes taking risks. American culture celebrates taking risks, like going out of the way to get something new, because it's not like bogged down by tradition or any established way. Because of course America is young when we compare it to other countries or civilizations, and there is this attitude of like slight recklessness that Americans have. It's like they don't think about how things should be done, they think about how things could be done. And it is this attitude that results in, taking risks and eventually making decisions really, really fast, and that results in more innovation, which is kind of true, because if we look at top 10 companies in the world based on market cap, 8 of them are American. 1 of them is from Taiwan, and the only European company that we have is ASML, the Dutch company that makes machines that makes chips. So in terms of innovation, the USA leads every other nation far, far behind. And I think part of it has to do with this unique American ability that prioritizes taking risks, that, makes it a part that celebrates taking risks, that celebrates going out into the world and, finding your own identity and finding the best what you can do. I think this was one of the very unique American things that prioritizes taking risks. Of course, it can get bad. I mean, taking risk at a certain time and a certain place is okay, but you cannot take risks your whole life. So it has to be balanced, and it can easily go the other side as well, where everything is just chaos. And the 5th quality that I really admire about Americans is that they can sell. They know how to sell. On my last visit to the US, I had this very unique realization when I saw this huge market. Like, everything in the US is for sale. Almost everything in the US can be bought. And that sort of made me realize that in the US, you can be really, really successful if you can buy a lot of stuff or if you can sell a lot of stuff. It is a culture that has embraced capitalism to its maximum with all its good and bad qualities. But Americans know how to sell themselves. It is something that is taught to them. I don't know. It is something that is prioritized in their culture, how to highlight themselves, how to show themselves who they are and, present themselves. This whole culture of selling eventually also makes you sell yourself as well, because if you are looking for a job, then of course you have to be able to present yourself, you have to be able to sell yourself. If you're looking for more businesses, then of course you still need to be able to sell yourself. There are so many of things in life that get way much easier that if you know how to sell. And that is something that is happening behind the scenes in the US all the time. People are either buying, people are either selling, because they have embraced capitalism to its maximum, and it's good and bad at the same time. But the good quality is then you know how to sell yourself. And in other parts of the world, particularly for me, as I said before, a person who is an introvert, it's very hard to talk about yourself. It's very, very hard to talk positively about yourself. If you have talked to anybody in Europe or any places, you will see that those people are quite rare. People who are actually able to talk about themselves in a positive way, no matter how true might that be. So that is uniquely American. I mean, it can go overboard, but still, when done in moderation, it is a very cool quality to have. So there you have it. 5 uniquely American qualities, a little bit underrated qualities that can help everyone have a better life. Let me know what you think about the video down below. If you are watching me from America, please do comment down below and let me know where in America you are watching me from. I wish you all the best and take care.